welcome. This is a brand new season 4 of the AART Podcast, and a brand new style. We're going complete video now with this new season of the AART Podcast, and I'm delighted that my first guest actually is a production designer, so we better get things right on set here from the get-go. Sabrina Linder, welcome to season 4, episode 1 of Art with me, Chris Stafford, as always, with a tremendous lineup of guests I have to say, for season 4. Kicking off with no better, not just one guest. We've got Sabrina, but we've also got Bloomer. So, Sabrina, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking time to do this.
Thank you. Thank you for having us both. We're delighted to be here.
And
that podcast.
Yeah, and that is Boomer or Bloomer?
Bloomer.
Okay.
Little Bloomer.
She is fabulous. Yeah. And I hope she enjoys the show afterwards. And she probably is very sensitive to you now because you are expecting your first child.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
29 weeks today, actually.
Okay. 29 weeks and counting. And I imagine, we often see on social media particularly where the mum's dogs, they get so attentive to you when you're pregnant, right? And when the baby comes, because they sense, when there's life changing, when you're impacted in a different way. If anything's like out of the ordinary, and she's half border collie, so I imagine she's super sensitive.
I mean, she's probably more intelligent than most people's children. No offense.
Yeah.
But she's very attuned. Lots of people have actually asked me if her behavior is different, but because we've literally been each other's sidekick for the last 11 years, she's always been this way, and it's always just been her and I through everything. But last night was the first night that she actually put her head like on my belly, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then the baby kicked her off.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So it was quite sweet. And I think that was, I mean, I'm sure she's noticed before, but that was like her true like interaction, I think, with it, which is beautiful.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting watching those dynamics, and especially when the baby's born as well. But anyway, Happy New Year. We are right at the start of 2026. Can you believe it? Brand new year. And as I said, a great lineup of guests coming to you on the AART Podcast. Just a reminder that we will be both, of course, on YouTube here, the full episode now, just one episode every 2 weeks, so still bi-weekly, and also on any podcast app. And I know that you, Sabrina, have been watching and listening to the show, haven't you? Because some of your favorites have been on the show.
Yeah, like Ellen Krauss, amazing.
Yeah.
And a couple of other artists. And I just really like what the podcast does, to be honest, just giving a voice to visual artists. And I was thinking about this today. I think when you're at the point in your career as an artist where you actually get to have a bit of a platform where you're reaching people and they're seeing whatever field you're in, it's such a privilege, and like it's a privilege and also a responsibility to create work that is moving but also says something. Because I think so often like you can take for granted that there's so many artists that are still trying to get their work seen and all of that. And I think it's really important we ask, like, what questions is our work telling people? What are we as artists trying to say? And how is it beneficial also to, like, for me, the audience, or to an artist who's viewing your creative work? And yeah, I think today was just something I was thinking about, like, what a privilege it is, and what, like, a responsibility also at the same time.
Being an artist.
Yeah.
And being someone who's come from fashion design, that's where you started, wasn't it? So you're very sensitive to fashion as well. But just a reminder, everybody, of what you do as a production designer, because it's all encompassing. The art designer, you're responsible for the look and the feel, the whole production, in collaboration, of course, with the director and producer. But it is an all-encompassing role. So do you have a big picture look when you look at something, and then zoom into the detail? Which way round is it for you in your first perspective of a scene?
So I think when I'm given a script, the first thing I do is, like, you'll obviously read it, And it's kind of like the feeling. You need to sit with what feeling is it giving you. And the first thing I'll do is like I'll just break it down into colors.
Mm.
And I think that comes from a bit of the fashion world where like I wrote my dissertation on color theory throughout like Western and Eastern cultures and all of that. But color subconsciously speaks to us so loudly and it's universal. There's no language to it. So I'll always break it down into like the core colors of the film and I will attach, certain colors to like main cast and main sets. And for me, the sets are really the worlds we build around our cast or our characters because your character kind of gives reason for everything that's in the environment. Like if you walk into your bedroom, you've got all your personal things, and you've got things that only you know why, or they've got history to you and stuff like that. So a big part of my work is like I'll first dive really deeply into character analysis, and I'll often like have conversations with the cast and find out like we'll talk about the character's history, and then I'll populate their worlds with like small things and then almost like expand out. It might even be like a little bit backwards,
Mm.
but I kind of want the sentimental meaning of the character to be in the space first and then for things to evolve around it. That way I'm choosing like what backgrounds to give props or to give characters and how to make them stand out or to be quiet.
Where did this sense of imagery, color, light, and all of those things that you just mentioned, where did that begin? What do you think was the catalyst for that? Was it something as a little girl you would see things that way?
Um, I mean, so if we go back to childhood, my mom is an incredible artist, but also an incredible designer in her own right. And
Mm.
actually, only now has she started doing it professionally and become an interior designer. But she was always creating the most incredible spaces
Hmm.
just for our home and for her friends. And I was just always involved in that. And she was always paying attention to the finest of details and the most beautiful colors and textures. So I think a lot of that stems from just childhood and being completely surrounded in a very non-professional way. And maybe that was what was beautiful because it was always fun. Design was like something we did together and it was
Hmm.
beautiful. And, you know, it was just something we bonded over.
So,
So
so
came
she
from
would
that.
influence you in some way, then would she encourage you to see things that way?
I don't even know if she knew she was doing it on
Uh-huh.
purpose, but the first time I realized that I was so inspired by her was I was on a job. I was doing like a Dior shoot and doing the style for it and the set design for it. And I kept saying I was a props master then. And I kept saying to my production designer, oh, my mom would do it like this. And eventually he teased me about it. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And that's kind of when I realized how big the influence was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were born in Pretoria in South
Yes.
Africa in 1992. Tell us what your earliest memories are of growing up there. What was life like for the little girl?
So Pretoria is an interesting place because, I mean, we had just gotten through apartheid and luckily I was born after that.
Hmm.
So I'm quite grateful that I didn't have to see a lot of what went on. Pretoria is pretty Afrikaans, so quite traditional and conservative, I think is the way to describe it. So what's interesting is the stark worlds between where I find myself now and Pretoria. It was very conservative. I was raised Catholic and, went to Sunday school until I was 16. And it was a very different experience. And I don't think creative pursuits were encouraged that much. It's very much the traditional sense of like, you're going to grow up and be a vet or a
Hmm.
doctor
Hmm.
and this kind of a thing. Um, yeah, it was an interesting experience. South Africa, with its elements, you kind of are raised behind, like you're in your own home, you're raised like behind high walls kind of thing. If you like, luckily I had a sibling that we played and loved each other, and we had like a little bush veld across the road.
Hmm.
And actually, this is the best part. we loved watching Star Wars. It was probably one of our biggest influences. And for treats, my mom would hire us costumes, like Star Wars costumes and lightsabers. And then we'd like for the weekend play in our Star Wars characters. And I guess, yeah, that was a
So
beautiful,
you were close to your brother Brendan, were you? Is he
yes.
older or younger?
He's 18 months older than me.
Okay, so you were quite close. Were you hanging out more with each other than since you were close than like maybe playing with parents or activities with parents?
I mean, yeah, definitely it was him and I against the world.
Okay.
We, we got up to
Co-conspirators.
mischief together.
Does that mean
Exactly.
did that mean a lot of mischief too?
As much as we possibly could, but I did have strict parents. So we towed the line. But we did. We loved to play and yeah, we loved to do imagination. I actually hadn't thought about that memory in ages. It's so nice. But
And
that's
what
what
and what does Brendan do?
Brendan is a project manager. Um, he's in the construction industry. He's actually just changing jobs at the moment, starting a new one next month. And he's going into a leasing agency, like commercial building
Hmm.
stuff like that.
So what's your parents' story then? What's their background? Because your dad was in a way creative too. He was a surveyor, project development, and obviously a creative mind, as well as your mother being artistic. So what was their story? How did they find each other? Did they grow up in that area?
So my dad grew up closest to the area and lived and worked here his whole life. And my mom grew up in a tiny town called Grahamstown. Um, Very small, quite remote.
Hmm.
And she came to Pretoria when she was young, and that was like her version of going to the big city,
Yeah.
like a whole different world. Um, and I actually believe they met. My mom was dating my dad's friend, and he came to the house that my dad had built, the same house that they still live in to this day.
Oh, really?
Knocked on the door, and there was my mom. And my dad tells the story that he just saw, and he was like, "Nope, have to marry that woman." And he pretty much fell in love with her from the get-go, and she was obviously dating someone else. And eventually, long story short, they landed up getting together. But then my mom left on a Kentucky tour with her best friend, like very shortly afterwards. And for 6 weeks, my dad posted love letters to her in every single country she went
Oh,
to make sure she wouldn't forget him.
oh, how romantic.
Yeah, and they're still married to this day.
I
And they're
love
actually
that.
visiting at the moment. So
That's wonderful.
they're very
And
sweet.
still living in the same house. So how many years? I mean, that's always been the family home as far as you're concerned then.
Yeah, that's always been the fact. I mean, probably edging on to like 40 years now they've been there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Do you miss that?
Um, so I can't say that I loved Pretoria very much. So obviously you always miss family and we're very close. But we spent a lot of time in the coast, in Durban, which was maybe more the family home there because that's where we would holiday and do all the things. And we've had
Mm.
a home there, and that's where everyone comes together. So I miss that because you're by the ocean and everyone is happy there, and it's just a beautiful environment.
Yeah, it's a big
And
change for you now living just outside of London. And you've been there a few years though. So you're well
yeah,
settled in by now.
yeah.
But was that what you might consider essential in terms of your career move then? You needed to move to a metropolis like London, of course, was the middle of it all, or in the States. How did you
Um,
choose London versus the States?
so interestingly enough, I was always called to London from the age of 18. Like for some reason, it was my plan. And I told my parents, like, I'm going to move to London one day. That's just it.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't sure how I was going to do it. And then I was studying fashion design and got accepted to do my honors at London College of Fashion. And I was like, oh, this is when I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, got offered my first movie role as a costume designer. So I deferred that for a year and then kept deferring it so because I kept doing more films and more projects. So that got put on hold, but I always knew just to get to the next level for me that I had to go. It was just like this weird calling and it had to be London. And eventually when I did make the move, it opened a lot of doors and I landed up doing my like first feature film and then my next feature film. Where in South Africa, my main career is commercials and I still do commercials here, but the commercials industry in Cape Town specifically is incredible. The crew, the service companies, they're, the top in the world. So it really is the place to be for that. And, even living in London, I have done my biggest sets while living in Cape Town just because the budgets expand for them. So the learning you have there is incredible. But I knew if I wanted to go into narrative on an international level, that it had to either be London or the States. London just opened its doors first. But I definitely, I've got my O1 visa and definitely would love to go into the States as well. It's all just a matter of time and where doors open up.
So where did you get your break then? Because you went to fashion school in Cape Town to start off with in fashion design. And from there, you got into the industry, it sounds fairly easily, getting into both commercial and narrative in Cape Town. Tell us how those doors opened for you.
So, I mean, I think it was a freak event. It was kind of strange. I, for my final year collection at Fadisa, created a very strange avant-garde capsule collection inspired by nomadic Tibetans, and it was very layered in drapery and definitely didn't fit anywhere else in the world. And a director saw my collection online and he kind of got through to me and he wanted to use my collection in his film. And I mean, low budget indie film. I don't even think I earned much money, like any money on it, but it was amazing, So he's like, can I have your garments in my film? In exchange, you can be the costume designer, which is like, an unheard of just jump off. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, of course, let's do it.
No problem.
No problem.
She said with nervous anticipation, but it obviously paid off to, take the plunge literally to bite the bullet and get in, because it not only opened the doors, but it really swung them wide open for you then, didn't it? Because you were going from one project to another.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was amazing. I think I did that for almost a year because the film kept getting delayed and I pretty much almost worked for free for a year. But I learned so much and just fell in love with being on set incredibly. And then, got another costume design film after that and they kind of unfolded. And then when I was doing a project called Samson, the movie, and I wasn't costume designing it, I was coordinating it. But the production designer on that we kept our like world kind of kept intertwining, where I'd have to help him with stuff and he'd have to, because you're all on the same project, you're doing the same thing. And he was the one who was like, you should come into art, like you would love it, you'd be amazing. And so then I kind of jumped onto commercials with them, just as like an assistant in the art department, and then quickly went into props master. And then in South Africa, you jump differently. And then from that, didn't even go into art directing, just went straight into production design. And that came about because a wonderful production designer, Ivan Fraser, who kind of was my mentor, he was gearing up to move to the States when I started working for him. And we worked together for about 2 years and I learned so much from him. And when he left to the States, I inherited his clients. And I was probably like 25 and just started production designing these amazing commercials. And it was a bit like in the beginning where I was like, I can do this for sure. And a little bit like making it up as I go along. And I remember phoning him in America and I was 25. I was like on my first one and I was like, they're asking me for flats and this. I'm like, what are flats? And they're literally just walls. And he just laughed. He's like, this is what you're going to do. And we won't say which jobs they are, but they went well.
Right. Good. The outcome was
No.
what was intended. And I'm wondering though what the little girl would be thinking now. Was this something that you were dreaming of that when I grow up I want to be?
I mean, no. Where I grew up in Pretoria, I didn't even know what a production designer was. Like the movie world was not something you could even fathom of or think of. It was so far removed. Like even taking art at school
Hmm.
was very not encouraged at all. So,
Right.
I mean, it's to be honest, it wasn't even something I thought of until that director saw myself online because it just wasn't a world that I thought I would ever be part of. It seemed so far away.
You didn't have any mentors then, or anyone that you were
Um,
paying attention to in school, any directors or designers, producers, or any film genre? Was there anything that, like, oh, this is something that I could get into?
no, the thing is, like, my film knowledge was so basic. Like I said,
Beyond
my
Star
brother and I,
Wars.
no, that was it. It was
That was
literally
it.
Star Wars. And this is maybe why I love, like, Patrice Vermette so much because of the work he did on Dune. But it was so limited. And that's why, like, I even look back and now I'm just like, wow, what a ride. I think as a young girl, I was very into like the fashion world and like Kate Moss and like those kinds of things because that almost seemed a little bit more attainable and more, it just didn't seem as far. Like movies were just so grand and so imaginary, you
Yeah.
know.
So it was the runway
And
more than being on set.
yeah, I mean, because you just didn't even think about like, you
Mm.
just didn't even fathom that that was a job. It was incredible to think about now
It's
because
it's it's
it's
extraordinary when you think about that you couldn't do art in, because usually that's one basic on any
so.
school curriculum. So what
No,
were
it
you
was in the
doing?
curriculum. It was in
Oh,
the
oh, it was in the
curriculum,
curriculum.
but culturally not encouraged.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Discouraged because,
Because it wasn't considered a real job. So, and this is nobody's fault or anything like that. When I was in high school, you choose your subject.
mm,
And initially, I was forced to choose biology, science, and business studies. And then I was really good at art, loved to draw, loved all of that. Begged my parents to let me take art. Big fight. Eventually,
oh,
we settled on I could take design at school.
uh-huh,
So I landed up taking design, which then kind of fed into the love of fashion and all of that because I excelled at it.
right.
But it was a struggle to get there.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that you had that hurdle, if you will, at a very formative time of your career,
Yeah.
of your certainly academic life. And it's something that gave you the basics anyway. I mean, I'm sure you don't regret taking the fashion route because it gave you the basics to what you're doing.
I mean, it was amazing. So at school, the design was like it covered lighting design, it was just general design. So you did a bit of design history and all that. So that was amazing because I think that set the path for my obsession with lighting in set design.
Mm.
It's a huge focus on because we studied it and you saw the effects of it. Um, I think yeah, I mean, it definitely propelled me to do design on a tertiary level. But it's interesting because it was a constant like I had to like m make my parents this folder of like when I wanted to go to FIDISA, why I wanted to go to FIDISA, what I was going to gain from it, the career paths that you could get from. Like everything had to be like proven of how I would get there or why it was beneficial, you know. So it's always been a bit of a push, but they have once I had spoken to them about it and we'd gone through the hurdles. I'm also very stubborn, so I won't take no for an answer. Once everyone had wrapped their minds around it, then the support was always there, you know. And there have been, my parents have supported me throughout my career, and they allowed me to be a freelancer since 18. And I mean that because obviously as a freelancer, in the
Mm.
beginning, you get help financially by your parents, and they've done everything they can to support me through it. So yeah, it's never a straight journey. to being a creative, but I think it's the push that helps you expand.
Talk a little bit more about the cultural impulses that clearly, it's something when you grow up in a certain culture, there's expectations, right, that go with that, and tradition and culture and history and political, economic. There's a whole armful, really, of influences there in your formative years. But what other cultural expectations were put on you as a young person graduating?
Um, well, I think if you take it all the way back, being like in a very conservative culture, with still, it wasn't very encouraged for like I didn't come from the experience of seeing lots of women who worked.
Hmm.
There was lots of like housewives and it wasn't really encouraged. So even now, like when I think about like inspirational women and stuff, like I really have to go dig deep and far because as a young girl, it's not something you saw. And that is just very much like it's changed now, but that was very much the Afrikaans culture of things. It was very much stay-at-home wives and this, and they raised the children. And yeah, it's like, you can still find yourself in that environment where like, you know, women are made fun of a little bit or like told to be quiet or not listened to. And, it's interesting because obviously there's variations of all of this throughout the world.
Hmm.
But I feel like where I grew up, it was quite strong. Um, and if you did, you know, I was always encouraged to like do my best. And my dad always said, you can do anything you set your mind to. But he very much wanted us to become quantity surveyors and join his firm and so on and so on, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's just an interesting mentality where I don't know if being a creative was ever considered like a real job. Because like when I think about it now, like my mum, who's exceptionally talented, she's only started earning a living from her creative side
Hmm.
now, and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
in her 60s.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like I almost think that's like the example of how things have changed.
Did you feel rebellious then in some way that you really had to forge ahead and be that woman to break down the barriers in some way
I
then?
mean, if you ask my parents, they would say it was very difficult. And I guess, yeah, you just have to kick and scream against everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's why and that's maybe why I don't love Pretoria. And literally, I was out of there by 18 and moved to Cape Town because that's the creative hub of South Africa.
Hmm.
And that really, like, that set me free. Once I was there, you kind of like, you don't have any of like the confinements or the shackles of like, the limitations that other people's notions can set on you as creatives.
And the
It's
pop
really
culture would
encouraged.
be very different too, wouldn't it? I mean, and those, during those are younger periods of your life where you're influenced by pop culture, certainly in fashion and film and TV and the visual arts. So I'm wondering then whose influences you were picking up when you went to the big city.
So, and this is interesting. So, from a teenager to, early 20s, the culture, like pop culture that I really resonated with, and maybe this is from the rebellious side, was like more like punk and a bit like emo, it was called at the time, and a bit darker.
Yeah.
So, like, I loved Alexander McQueen and a few other people, but like in my designs they were quite like edgy and a bit like grungy, and I think my music that I was listening to reflected that as well. But I think that was like literally just me trying to like be as rebellious as possible and to like push the mold. And then and then it was interesting once I'd moved to Cape Town, there was like this big desire to be almost like hippie-ish and
Yeah.
free. And so it went from that to this, and all of a sudden, like all the designs were like harem pants and this, and like interested in what's going on in Tibet and doing this, and going to like trance parties and spending the weekends doing that. And it was a bit of a wild time. But
I
yeah,
can imagine there was a lot of different influences to absorb at that time too. What about music? Because you send me your playlist, Sabrina, and I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, this comes from a different place. There's a very interesting eclectic selection there. But what were those influences that have that you've adapted to, or have they evolved much since you left South Africa and became
I
European?
mean, I think, a lot of the music that I love to listen to now is a bit more old worldly. And I've always had that. I think my soul just like yearns for that a little bit. Like very influenced from like the 50s all the way up until maybe like the 90s. I can't say that I listen to like modern music. Um, but yeah, I think it's just the good vocals and beautiful instruments and like, you know, Love Me or Die, one of my favorite songs is played
Uh-huh.
on repeat. And it's kind of just like that old world, like it almost has like a little bit of like voodoo magic to it. And it just sounds like
Interesting.
it's whimsical and there's just like that mystery behind it. And I love that. And a lot of the music I listen to is almost narrative.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
it's a bit storytelling. And I think when you've got like a very visual mind, to hear music that's not predictive and that will take you somewhere
Yes.
is something I enjoy.
Yeah, as you say, it's very visual. Um, really speaks to your imagination, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are you a musician yourself? Do you play?
No. I
No,
wish, but no.
nothing. Any music in your family?
No, not
No,
at all.
no.
No. It was one of the things that weren't encouraged. I begged to play the drums as a child and
Oh, did you?
I was told no.
You weren't listening to Karen Carpenter. That was probably a bit too before
No.
your time. She was a great drummer. And I'm wondering too about religion, Sabrina, because obviously, a very different environment in terms of religion in South Africa. How did that influence you? And is it something you carry with you?
So I was raised quite Catholic. And in a way that was beautiful because there was a sense of community.
Hmm.
Um, because you go to Sunday school until you're 16 and you get confirmed.
Hmm.
But what was interesting is we had a lot of Portuguese and Greek friends that you were kind of all teenagers together, and I was an altar girl and I did Holy Communion and all that stuff. And the community aspect of that was quite lovely and brought everyone together. It's not something that I carry with me now, just as I've expanded, so has my spiritual side more than I would say religious.
Hmm.
Um, but I definitely think there was an influence. I'm actually still quite influenced by like the aesthetic of Catholic churches.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, like my more elaborate work, like the deep colors from the stained glass windows and stuff, and the lighting is something I like to bring in through a lot of aspects.
Yeah,
So visually, I think it was beautiful. But yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say I was religious now.
more spiritual, you said.
Yeah, definitely.
I often think of artists and their color palette, the colors that they're drawn to, and in their work, and how that compares to their interior design and their fashion choices too.
Yeah.
Where does all that sit with you? If I was to come into your house and look around your house at your color palette of interior design and what you're wearing, where
I
does that
mean,
jive with the art you create?
so I'm a lover of deep, rich tones and reflective colors,
Uh-huh.
reflective surfaces. And if you came into my home, you'd see like right now, I'm like a child. I'm in the red room because there's a fire here,
Uh-huh.
but it's this deep purpley red, and the ceiling is reflective high glass oil paint because I
Oh,
want the lights and everything to reflect. And
perfect.
everywhere you see the windows, I want the window to look double height, so I want the ceiling to be reflective. The other part of the house is painted completely black. with rich mahogany antiques and like gold mirrors. And yeah, so I really love
And you
like
designed
dark, rich
all of that.
tones. Yes.
You've done all of that yourself in your house
Yeah.
in Beaconsfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we bought this bungalow and it was like a 1950s bungalow and it still had like the pink thick carpets on it and magnolia walls. And we just did a facelift on it and ripped up the carpets ourselves to find this beautiful pine floor underneath, which we've stained dark. And then it came down to choosing color.
Uh-huh.
And I literally painted, because I painted, must have been like at least 6 to 7 different colors in each room, because you need to have the color next to the light and then watch it through the day
Hmm.
because it reacts differently as the sunlight changes. And
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do color drenching. So you have to really like the color you choose if you don't
Yeah.
like color drench, because if it's like the walls, the ceiling, it's everything.
Yeah.
And the doors and the window frames, everything goes one color. So for 2 months, I think it was, I just watched colors on my walls and watched how they changed. And it was, I love it, but it was funny. Once we had everything painted, we were actually in South Africa and we had it painted while we were away.
Hmm.
And when we came back, my partner was shocked. He's like, I'm not sure if I like this. I'm like, you're gonna love it, trust me.
Has he come around to it now?
Loves it now. It just needed the stuff in it because we
Yeah.
just walked into the empty black hallway and red hallway with the reflective ceilings, and he was just like, "Oh no,
Uh,
what's going on?" Oh no, we love it. It's awesome.
what art would I find on your walls?
Oh, this is great. So we've got right now to the left of us a very beautiful piece of art by, what's his name? I need to have a look. I need to get back to you. But basically, he's like the South African Picasso. And actually, I'm going to look, so do him a service.
Oh,
One
South
second.
African.
Yeah. It's Mfakazi. So
Mpakazi.
Mfakazi,
Mpakazi.
this
Okay.
incredible painter. Um, and yeah, basically they call him the South African Picasso. And so that's framed beautifully there. Then behind me is a piece that I found in Rome when I was there for about 3 months. And it's like a vintage tapestry
Hmm.
that I brought and had framed. Then I've got one of my mum's paintings on the wall, which is like an abstract painting of a woman thinking of her daughter. And we've got a couple of frame pieces from Drool, which is just a graphic design website that's like not expensive art, but really cool things. And that's a picture of a panther and a leopard at a dinner table fighting over scraps of food. That's printed big and that's in the kitchen. So it's really quite an eclectic mix.
Have you chosen all the art then, Sabrina?
Yes.
You have.
Yeah.
So
And
this is very much your color palette, your feel, the look, the feel, the color, the light, all of those visual, really important visual aspects of your world right there.
yeah, I love strong colors, but I also love contrast.
Okay.
So I love to put like a beautiful antique piece in a modern space or switch that round. And I
Hmm.
like to put soft textures in a harsh environment. I think the contrast is thought-provoking, and
Do you
I want your
enjoy?
eye to move.
Yes, exactly. And the contrast is really important because often, sometimes I ask people, in the business, what they see first, is it light or color? And in fact, it was Ellen Curris who said it's how it makes you feel, and you mentioned that too, the feel. I'm
Yeah.
wondering then, having created this beautiful environment, this is all about you with fingerprints all over it in terms of color, textures, everything, art, everything you just mentioned. if you enjoy inviting people into your home and entertaining them so that they get to understand who you are and everything that you represent in your home.
Well, I love hosting dinner parties. My partner and I both love cooking.
Okay.
And for me, that's more of just like it's more the act of service and like the gift. Like cooking is such a language of love.
Hmm.
And it's for me, it's the easiest way to express it. And I get that once again from my mom, who's the same.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think, you know, doing your home, I think actually is for you first because specifically like I work from home a lot of the time unless I've been, prepping a movie from somewhere else.
Hmm.
But it is some way that you need to be creative and inspired by every day. So I think that's first. And then it is beautiful to share your home and to, inspire other people with the things that you have in terms of the design style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think like cooking is just a beautiful way, like a love language for people.
So that segues perfectly into my next question. You know what's coming now is the dinner party question, which we've started to ask on the previous season of Art here, where I asked my guests if they can name six people who they would invite to a dinner party, living or dead. So thank you for that segue, Sabrina. And you already went through some ideas for the people that you would invite, several people from your industry, of course, and early influences too, past influences. Talk us through those.
Okay, so I think I have to remember what I said. I had Iris van Herpen on the list,
Hmm.
who is probably one of the first fashion designers who influenced me, and my work's nothing like hers, but she is so incredibly creative and just her shows are so thought-provoking, and she really put theatre into runway shows before anyone else did. And just she's so narratively driven in the way she does collections.
Hmm.
Just to like hear her inspiration would be amazing. Um,
And Marilyn Monroe was also on your
she
list.
was
I
gonna
thought
be
that
my
was an
next
interesting one.
one.
And tell me what sort of thinking behind that choice.
You know what? I think what made me think of Marilyn Monroe is, one of my favorite films, Blonde, which got a lot of heat because they projected Marilyn once again, like in the male gaze, and they really didn't give her a voice.
Hmm.
It's my favorite film because visually it's a masterpiece. It's incredible. Um, Florencia Martinez production designed that, and it's so beautiful. But I think it would be so fascinating to hear Marilyn's side of her life because I don't think she was ever given this voice. And so many people have portrayed her, and she's always been portrayed from male perspective. But I'm sure she would have a lot to say and, her own foot to put down about certain things.
And you mentioned Patrice Vermette earlier, and you're going to invite him to dinner. Why?
Because he started off in music videos and also very like humbly. And I think to hear his story of how he got to design like some of the most incredible films we have today, from Sicario to Dune, his range is incredible. And yeah, I just think he'd have a lot to share because
Yeah.
his design is also, it's not pristine and perfect. Like if you look at like Sicario and stuff, like it's messy and there's wires hanging around and it's real. It looks so authentic. And I think it's more like how has he gone through all of his levels without being like tainted or put into a box somehow.
Hmm. Interesting. And Jack Fisk was also on your list. Why would you
Yeah.
invite him? And where would you seat these people? I want to know how you're going to seat them as well, because you've got to sort of provoke a conversation, right? Get a conversation going between these people as well. And you've got questions for them, I know, but where are you going to put Jack?
Jack's interesting because I mean he's on there because I just watched Mighty Supreme and thought design wise it was incredible.
So you're
He's
going to pick
80
his brains.
now.
So you need to sit close to him to pick his brains.
Well, I'm gonna pick his brains, but I'm like, do I put him next to Marilyn, who at this point would probably be like 20 years older than him?
Right.
Um, or do I put him next to someone like Iris van Herpen so that they can have like a completely different world conversation? I know this is the hard thing about dinner because selfishly they're all there for I'm putting them there for my
Exactly.
questions.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're going to
It's
have to
hard.
sit in the middle, really, rather than at the end of the table, or maybe a round
I'll
table would
just
work
sit on
best
the table.
on the table. How about a round table?
A round table is probably for the best. I think, uh, I think it would just be, you kind of would need to draw up a bunch of questions for everyone, put them in a hat, and then make them ask each other.
Well, my favorite guest is coming to this particular dinner party is none other than Bloomer, your dog who introduced herself earlier, because you mentioned to me before we started recording that, she's been by your side now for 11 years and
Yeah.
she's very much a part of the family. So it's totally okay to bring the dog. It's the first time we've had a dog invited to the dinner party. So does she have to sit still and pay attention or can she roam around?
I mean, she can roam around, but the beauty of Bloom is like, she's so obedient. She was raised basically at restaurants. Like if I sit down, she'll just sit there for hours and she won't move. But she is a bit of an attention hog now. I think the older she's gotten, when people walk in the room, she goes, "Ooh," and she makes like these sounds, then everyone wants to give her love. She's kind of learned how to work the room very well. But it's just we've been together for 11 years, and I just can't imagine a scenario where I don't have her with me.
Right.
She's come on every job with me. She's come on every film with me. She comes onto set with me.
Does she?
Yep, she's right there through everything. She came when I
I
was shooting
love
I
that.
Swear with me on set every day. Salvable with me on set every day. When we were shooting Salvable, we were doing a massive underground fight scene.
Hmm.
And the guys were really going at it. Like the cast, it was quite like raucous and there was screaming and all of this. And she just sat next to me amongst all it, didn't care because
Yeah.
she just knows if I'm cool with whatever's going on, she's cool
She's
with
cool.
it.
Yeah. I
And it's
love that.
just, and she makes people so happy.
Yes. It
Like,
relaxes
she
people. They tend to relax people, don't they?
completely,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Well,
So I
since
wouldn't
you
do it without
mentioned,
her.
well, I think she has every right and entitlement to be at the dinner party. And I'm curious now because you said how you and your partner enjoy cooking. So what would you feed these people?
So we have the special recipe that we do that is a mint and ricotta ravioli in a clear tomato broth. We hand make the pasta from scratch, and it's all about the tomato broth and finding the most beautiful tomatoes. And instead of cooking them for ages, you cook them for 20 minutes on low, so they almost taste green. And then you blend them, and then you put it in like this, like a cheesecloth, and you let it slowly drip
Hmm.
out into
Hmm.
this clear, beautiful liquid. And you put some edible flowers in that, and then just the ricotta and mint
And mint.
just go so well
Oh,
together.
that sounds yummy. What kind of tomatoes?
I mean, just the freshest, most beautiful on the vine tomatoes
Okay,
you can get.
just on the vine. Awesome. Do you have a recipe that you want to share?
I can text it to you.
I
It's
love that.
long.
We'll put it in the show notes. Why not?
Yeah.
The last guest on season 3 of the podcast was Cami Medlick, who an artist from Minnesota, and she's known for her soups. She always
Oh,
has a soup going, and we've compared notes on soups, and I think we should maybe start a recipe book of guests and their recipes. How do you think about that
that'd be
idea? That would be
amazing.
fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm wondering in your home then, okay, you're going to have these people, you're going to cook for them. Are you going to play music? Are you going to play your playlist for them, or are you going to let the conversation take hold of and
I could never not
front and
have
center?
music.
Okay,
I just, I can't even have no music by myself. I need it in the
you need
background.
music.
I think I would have my playlist that I gave you. It's pretty dinner party friendly.
Okay,
It's kind of got like that old worldy jazz to it, which I like. Yeah, music definitely. Um, my partner's an excellent piano player,
Oh,
so
perfect.
at some stage that will
So,
happen as
right.
well.
Some after dinner
Yeah,
jazz yeah, some after dinner something. Yeah, that sounds
yeah.
wonderful. Um, we didn't mention books. I'm always curious, Sabrina. I'm a big reader myself. What kind of books you're drawn to? What would be on your nightstand?
So this is the maybe the boring aspect, but on my nightstand right now, I'm very into like spiritual self-development and growth and stuff. So I've always got a Joe Dispenza book. Right now I've got a Two Magnetic book. I've actually got a book that I wrote on my nightstand.
Which
Um,
is?
and this is just a complete side curve, but it's there, so it's worth mentioning.
Sure.
It's called A Diary of Conception, and it's unpublished yet, but I'm in the process of doing it. And it's a book that I wrote about actually preconception because we had multiple miscarriages before we conceived, and it was the deep dive into this 90-day formula that I found across multiple doctors and specialists.
Hmm.
And I deduced all my obsession and knowledge into a book, not on purpose, but I journal every day. So
Hmm.
by the time we conceived and actually things all worked out, I had journals and journals of this knowledge that I had taken of everything we were doing. And, it's 90-day protocol of like the things we took out and the diets we were on, the supplements we were doing. And it just turned out into this simple formula.
Hmm.
And so that's next to my nightstand.
Yeah. Do you think you'll publish that then at some point?
Yeah, I'm in negotiations with, I'm doing a self-publishing with Hay House. Um, just because to actually get like a literary agent, you have
Hmm.
to like, it's quite difficult. They want to know how many followers you have and this, that. And I'm just like,
Sure.
you know, but for now, I mean, I've just actually been sending it out to like, you know, quite a lot of people and they're sending it out and they're sending it out just because it's an interesting and a complete segue, but so many people I know are struggling with infertility
Mm.
and it's kind of this thing that no one really talks about and there's a bit of like, no one talks about miscarriage, no one talks about any of this. There's like this weird shame around it and it shouldn't be that way because it's such a common thing. It's not normal. But the further along we get in our generations, the harder
Mhm.
it is for people to conceive. And it's just because we're so exposed to toxins and it's a whole rabbit hole of going down the thing. So, yeah, that will probably be published February, round about then.
Oh, okay. So pretty soon.
Mm,
Do you use Substack?
yes.
Okay. We'll have to put that in the show notes then. People can follow you and hopefully once it's published, you'll let us know and we'll also promote that for you, Sabrina.
Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting journey. And it's funny because even like as a woman, even being pregnant, you worry about like, how will this affect my career? What's people's perception of it? And like, you shouldn't think
Mm.
that way, but you do.
Yeah.
You naturally just do. And even that itself is like, I took quite a while before I told like my agent or anyone that I was pregnant, just because you want to work and you're so worried that people won't employ you. So it's a whole thing that I think women as like creative women should talk about more
Yeah.
and like, and talk about how it's totally doable to have your family and to have your career and to do all of
Mm.
these things. And I mean, there's some amazing women. I've seen a couple of cinematographers that have actually like are going to work with their babies strapped onto them. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, good for you. More people like that. Show us more of those
Yes,
images.
exactly.
Because
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
so far and few between still to this day,
Yeah.
you know.
But you're working mainly from home, you said, unless you have to be on set. So that's going to help, I would imagine, transition into motherhood.
Yeah. So, I mean, commercials are easy. You do a lot of prep from home. You're on set for a couple of days, and that's good. So, you know, I've got that going on, but then we start prep for our next film, um, probably April.
Hmm.
So the baby's due end of March.
Hmm.
So it'll be pretty swift, but my partner's the director and we will just support each other and I'll fly my mom over.
There you go.
And it's just going to be one of those things, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's
You,
going to be just family life is changed. It's different, and everybody embraces it and pulls their weight, and yeah, and
yeah.
makes it happen. Can you tell us what the project is?
I can't yet because we're
Okay,
still signing on cast and all of that.
okay, okay.
But as soon as it is, I will tell you.
Very good. Well, we will follow you on of course, on the social media on Instagram. Just remind everybody your Instagram name if they want to follow you, and we'll put it in
It's
the show notes.
Sabrina Linder Creative.
Is there an underscore between Sabrina, Linda, and
Yeah,
creative? I
Sabrina
think there is.
underscore
Yes,
Linder
seem to
underscore
remember that.
creative. Well
Okay,
done.
that's on Instagram. Um, and on Substack, how do they find you?
We can put that in the show notes because that's completely unrelated to any of my creative work.
Okay, all right, super. And finally, if you look back now at your career and what you've achieved, and given your background and the influences we talked about, would you have done anything differently, or what were the biggest lessons that storyline to where you are today has taught you?
I don't think I would have done anything differently. I think I've had the most incredible, fortunate experience to be where I am today. Um, I've taken a lot of big risks, and chopped and changed my life a couple of handful of times, but they've kind of always worked out. I think making the move to London is probably one of the best decisions I ever made. Um, I think the biggest two things. The biggest thing I think is the first film I ever said yes to, which was that like indie small film
Right.
that I hope we never see. But it's obviously started my obsession and love for film.
Right.
And then I think the next one of the next best decisions was when I chose to do I Swear, which
Mm.
is the film that just came out last year and is coming to the States in 2026. Um, I had just wrapped up Salvable and literally a week later was offered I Swear in another film. And I Swear it's a beautiful story about John Davidson's life, a man with Tourette's from the 80s. And the other film was a period piece. And it was a much bigger budget and it was quite like glam. And, you know, the extent of what I could do as a designer was, you know, something you really want to sink your teeth into. But when I read the script, I just didn't appreciate it the way that I appreciated the script, I swear. And I was sitting with both of them and I was like, what's the story
Hmm.
that as a creative you should tell? And I was like, oh, not should, but what do you want to tell? What do you think is important for people to hear? And I swear it was just that time made the decision. It was leaps and bounds like this is the story people need to hear. People need to know more about Tourette's. They need to see how to live with it and what people's lives are like.
Hmm. Right.
And bless John Davidson for being such an incredible, inspirational man, and for Kirk Jones, who directed and wrote the script, just so witty and incredible. And that, I mean, it's a recent decision, but it was a pinnacle point where I was like, you know, chose this indie film instead of like the more glamorous design version. And it filled my heart with so much love through the whole journey. And I've had some of the best moments in my career shooting that film.
Hmm.
There's a scene where we flew in a bunch of children that have Tourette's from all over the UK
Oh,
and
interesting.
put them together in a room for the first time with other children that had Tourette's, and they'd never been with other children who had Tourette's. And they were teaching them drumming and photography and all of this. It's all in the
Right.
film. And just to be a witness in that room, to see these children, like how they lit up with one another and the freedom they had from being the majority in a space
Yeah.
is probably like one of the highlights of my life just to see that and to be like a fly on the wall for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what like that. It's just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
What a privilege it is to be in a position where you can observe these things.
Yes. Absolutely. And tell me the name again of that we put in the
That's
show
I
notes.
swear.
I swear, that is I
I
swear.
swear.
Okay, super. Well, we'll put that in the show notes along with your IMDb link, of course, and your website so people can follow you. You can, of course, follow us on the Art Podcast on Instagram. That's art with two A's. And you can reach us at theartpodcast@gmail.com. We always love to hear from you if you have any suggestions for guests as well as, of course, we have suggestions from our guests who nominate other people whose work that they admire. And you've done that for us as well, Sabrina. So we'll add your list to the show notes as well. And I guess wish you all the very best for bringing this new life into the world in a few short
Thank
months
you.
and the change of life that that is going to be for you and your partner and for your career as well. But obviously, they are going to be surrounded with very beautiful things and color and influence and design and fashion and beautiful things. I wonder if you're a collector. Then are you? Would you consider yourself a collector?
I definitely love antiques and I love the hunt for antiques
Ah,
and good
yes,
design.
yes,
So collector in that way and maybe
yeah.
probably starting to collect a bit of art now.
There you go. Wonderful. And I no doubt your new baby, when they're old enough, will be taken around all the galleries and museums in London from the V&A,
Yeah,
because the V&A, I would imagine, would be a great influence for you
a
too, isn't
great
it?
starting point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a good starting point. All right. Well, the very best of luck with your new beginnings in 2026, Sabrina, and thank you for
Thank
taking
you,
time to come
Chris.
on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to connect.